Alright, I've been playing Test of Honor by Wargame for several months now. I've really enjoyed this game. But when I first started playing it, on the Facebook page and the forums, people talked about another samurai skirmish game called Ronin by Osprey Wargames. So I went to the game store and I found a copy of this. And they don't really make models for this game. I think North Star does. But they don't make models for this game. But I can use my models from Test of Honor or Clan War into this game. So I played a game of this, and really for me, it was more complicated than what I was looking for in my skirmish game for samurais. So I'm going to stick with my Test of Honor, but I was impressed enough with the rules that I was like, well, let me go look at some other Osprey war games. So I went to their website, looked at their other war games they offer, and there's a lot. And I was reading descriptions of this game and that, and then when I hit this game, I was like, wow, this one really got my interest, and that is of Gods and Mortals. Now, ever since I was a little kid, I've really liked Greek mythology. I studied it, did some research on it, and read the stories. And what this allowed me to do was play Greek mythology in a skirmish war game. I thought, this is cool. I can play Zeus, not play, but I can have Zeus, or I can have Hades, or I can have Aphrodite on the table. And I can have Hercules and a Hydra, and I can have a Medusa on my side. And I can have the Spartans and Amazons and Satyrs or whatever. I can have those in my army going against somebody else. And they could be playing Egyptian or Norse or Celts. And also on their website for free, you can download the Japanese, Incan, and Arabian. So in this game, it's a point-buy system. So let's say we're playing 900 points. You pick one god. So do I want Aphrodite? Well, that's 272 points. Do I want Apollo? It's 380. Remember, you only have like 900. Now you can play more, but just as an example, kind of might limit who you would take. And so that's the points that each of these cost. So you choose one god, then you go to legends, and you have to play at least one. You can go up to 5, but the most points you can spend on legends is a third of your total points in your army. So if you're playing 900 points, the most points you can have in legends is 300 total. And this includes like the Minotaur, Medusa, the Chimera, the Hydra, there's Hercules, Perseus. These are the heroes and monsters you're used to if you studied the mythology and read their stories. These are what you'd be used to seeing. And then there's the mortals, which are, it could be even satyrs and centaurs, but it's, Amazons, Greeks, Spartans, there's some undead, and even stampeding cattle. So you have 900 points. What god do you want to run? How many legends do you want? You have to have at least one, but you go up to 5, but not over that point limit. And then the rest are mortals. And mortals are the only ones that run in units. And it's generally from 4 to 8 in a group. So if you run Greek archers, it's 20 points for one, but you have to have at least 4. So that'd be at least 80 points. You can go up to 8, that'd be 160 points. So you buy those. All right. Now, their stats here are like Q, C, and in what they have as abilities. Like these are armored, steadfast, rare, and stuff like that. I'm not going to go really over the abilities here. It's this Q and C I'm going to go over. Now, what Q is kind of like a saving throw. If something affects you, you need to make a quality, this is for quality, you need to make a Q test, that number or higher on a D6. So if your Spartans get attacked and they have to make a saving throw, they have to go 4 or higher, success. If your lion gets attacked, he needs a 3 or higher, success. If one of your gods gets attacked, it's 2. So that's what that quality means. It's a saving throw. But also has another effect in the game, and that is to activate them. So let's take Apollo. And he's a Q2. Now this goes for any unit except for the Q. You have to look at the unit's Q, so the Hydra would be a 3. But do you want to do 1, 2, or 3 dice? You roll those trying to get 2 or higher if you're trying to do Apollo. And in this case, I failed on 1, but I got 2, so that means I get to do 2 things with Apollo. I can move twice. I can move and attack, or I can attack then move. You can only attack once unless you have a special ability. Or I can do this ability and move. I can do this ability and attack. I can do this ability and this ability. I get to do 2 things with Apollo since I had 2 successes. If I would have that, I would have 3 successes. If I failed at these, I cannot find the 1. There it is. I'd only get 1 action with Apollo. So that's what that Q is. So if we go to the Hydra, it's a 3. So I'm rolling, and oh, I got 2 successes. So I get to do 2 things with Hydra. And the same thing, do I want to move? I can move twice. I can attack and move. I can move and attack and so forth. I could do some special ability maybe. That's how you activate. And humans are normally mortals are normally a 4. So if I bring these, gosh, I'm rolling really good. They would get 2 actions and fell on that one. So that's what that Q also means. It's not only saving throw, it's kind of a fog of war. Will they do what you want them to do? Now, let's go back to the Hydra where I failed 1. So what's going to happen here? This technically, you don't do this, but technically it goes to your opponent. For every failure, they get to choose a unit and try to do something on your turn with that unit. So let's bring out Zeus. Okay, so the Hydra failed 1, and they go, oh, I want to activate Zeus. So you have to roll. This is called a reaction. Successful. He gets to do 1 thing on my turn because it's 1 reaction die. So what does Zeus want to do on my turn before my Hydra gets to do his 2 actions? If I failed twice, let's say I rolled a 2 and a 2, I failed twice, that goes there. Roll, got 1, failed 1. This does not go back, it just goes away. So that means Zeus still only gets 1, but if I would have done this, Zeus gets 2 actions. He can move and attack, he can do 2 abilities, and so forth, just like if it was his turn. Now, he only gets to do that once on my turn, so once he does a reaction here, he doesn't get to do it again on my same turn until it comes back to my turn again, and then he can do another reaction if I fail. Now, humans, a little bit harder. Need a 4, of course I'll roll that. So failed 1, goes there, but let's say he rolled a 2, 2 goes there, and Zeus is going to get 2 actions compared to their 1. So they do their reaction. When they're done, now they get to do what they wanted to do. The other limit is that it has to be same level or higher. So mortals are the lowest level. So if the failure die goes here, it could be anybody can be activated. If it's a legendary that failed, only a legendary or a god can be activated by the opponent. And if a god fails, only their god can use that die if they haven't already had a reaction that turn. So that's how that works, kind of a fog of war. Some people don't like that. I actually kind of do, even though it's hosed me several times. Another thing that could happen is if you roll and you get 2 failures, or 3 or 4, but at least 2, those 2 dice go to the opponent as usual, and they can go, okay, I'm going to try to activate Zeus here, and oh, I got 1 reaction. He's going to move here. Hydra gets his 1. Now, because there was 2 failures, my turn's over. If you fail 2 more times, you do just like what would normally happen, but once everybody's done doing their actions, your turn's over. If you failed 3, so let's say this is what happened, those 3 dice could go to Zeus or whoever, has to be a legendary or higher because this is a legendary, and he gets nothing, he can't do anything, and then the turn's over once they do their 3. So be careful rolling 2 or more failures. Some people don't like that. I kind of do because it's fog of war kind of to me. You don't always get what you want in this game. That's one of the things that kind of makes it neat. I will say the combat system is the one thing I don't like in this game, and my friends and I played and we did not like the combat system. But basically you take their C, add it to a D6. So I'm going to get out so let's say these two are meleeing each other. We have a Amazon archer and a Spartan, and they have a C2, they have a C3, so they'll add 3, they'll add 2, there may be some other modifiers, roll, and I rolled really good, but I'm going to say like I rolled like this. Okay, so they got an 8, they got a 7. Well, they won, so you think, oh, a wound, they have 1 wound, so they take, no. They have to win by at least 3 before they cause a casualty on the other side. Win by 1, just push them back. Win by 2, you push them back. Win by 3, now we can take a casualty off. So we didn't like that, and it was very mathy. It's like, okay, I get this, so I get my C, plus these other modifiers, and then I have to take 1 away for this, but then I get plus for this, and it got to be very mathy. So I'm going to do another video on how we do combat now in this game, and we just love it compared to what was presented in this game. But that's how the combat works in this game. Take your combat value, add any modifiers that might be depending upon whether you're melee or range, roll off. If you don't beat them by 3, you knock them back. If you beat them by 3, you do a wound, which could take a model off. Also, if you tie, so let's say both these are 2s and they tie, they both take casualty. Now, let's say this situation here. So we have a mortal against a legend. If mortal does enough to kill the legend off, they get a saving throw. The legend gets a saving throw because they're a higher level tier or whatever compared to a mortal. And then if the mortals attack a god and do enough to cause a casualty on the god's going to get a saving throw to stay in the game. Now let's turn this around. Hydra beats a mortal. Legend versus mortal, no saving throw. We got 2 legends going after each other. Hydra beats the Medusa. Medusa's taken out, no save. Now we got the Hydra against a god. Well, the god's a higher level or tier, so the god's going to get a saving throw if this is going to take him out of the game with a legend attack him. And then when 2 gods attack anything, if they do 3 or more, it's taken out of the game. So that's how combat works, and that's the one thing we don't like about this game. Everything else is awesome. So you may be thinking, okay, so mortals are kind of worthless in this game. No, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, get past these abilities. Here we go. Ending the game. So let's look at what happens when you end the game. So all of the forces mortals are killed or have run off the table. So if you have no more mortals on the table in your force, you lose. Or if the opponent doesn't, they lose the game. If your god is dead, so Apollo got taken out, and there's not enough mortals to bring him back, there's a way for mortals to bring their god back into the game, even if they've been taken out. But if there's not enough mortals to do that, and your god is taken out of the game, you lose. And if you lose its god, all of its legends, and more than half its mortals, you lose. So again, all of these centered around mortals. So mortals are very important in this game. The other one is scenario. So some of them said, like, at the end of turn 6, game's over, see who wins, who has the most points here, and stuff like that. Another thing I'll say I like about this game is most war games like I start at this side of the table, you start at that side of the table, we advance on each other and all that. This game's different. So what happens is, you normally play on a 3x3 table, there's terrain out there, which I don't have out here, but there's terrain out here, and I'm going to put out my Hydra. So where do I want to put Hydra? I don't have to put it on my side of the table and then start marching it across to your side. I'm going to go right in the middle of the table and put my Hydra. Then what my opponent does is say he wants to put down Zeus here. His restriction is, unless scenario says otherwise, is he cannot be within 10 inches of my Hydra. So he's going to put, I'm going to move this in a little bit. So he's going to put Zeus over here. Now my restriction is I can't be within 10 inches of any of his units. So I can't be within 10 inches of that. So I'm going to put my Amazon over here. Now his restriction is he can't be within 10 inches of either of those. So he's going to take his Medusa and put it over here. So I'm going to take my Chimera, and I can't be within 10 inches, so I'm going to put my Chimera up here and so forth. And so you can kind of see how you're going to be mixed in here compared to, I'm going to start this side, you're going to start at that side. Let's go at each other. We're already mixed in, and when it's your turn, who do you want to activate first? I think I want to get my Hydra over to the Medusa to try to take her out, so I'm going to roll. And I got 3 successes, so he's going to move twice and sack, so forth. You get the idea of what's going to happen there. And I do like that part of the game. So I would say check this game out. It's pretty awesome. The abilities in it and the gods and all that, it's pretty awesome, pretty neat. If you're into something else, I'm trying to think of another, like Chinese maybe. You're like, oh, I really want to play a Chinese mythos. How can I do it? In the back of the book, they have their point system, how they pointed out, like the Hydra. How do they point out the Hydra? They show you. So if you want yours to have teleportation, it costs this much. If you want to have good shot, it costs this much. If you want to have a combat value 3 with a quality 3, it costs this much. So they show that in the back of the book, how they pointed everything, which you don't get in a lot of war games. So I would say check this out. Try their combat system. See if you like it or not. I'm going to put up a video, and you can check that out too, about how we do combat in this game. It doesn't change the odds on anything like the hammering thing or turning the stone and all that. Doesn't change the odds on that at all, how we do combat. It's just a little more math intuitive for us to where it's not so mathy. But do check out Of Gods and Mortals. We're having a blast with this game. I've been taking on the Japanese. The Norse have started thundering across the table now at us, so we're having to take on the Norse, and who knows who else is going to come at us. So yeah, so check out Of Gods and Mortals.